Belfast is burning and England is ablaze because of a revolution against the ruling class that has brought third world invaders into their nation to slaughter, rape, murder, and kill them. And now the people are revolting against their leaders. No doubt you have seen the horrific video of an Englishman getting beheaded in the streets of his native land, which his ancestors built, by a Sudanese animal barbarian who traveled to the nation, claimed asylum. He went from Sudan to Paris, Paris to Dublin, Dublin to Belfast, and immediately claimed asylum. How did this Sudanese man, by the way, how was he able to do this? How was he able to circumnavigate the globe like this? Well, because of left-wing NGOs funded by George Soros, funded by USAID, that brought him here. He didn't build a boat. He didn't create a plane. He didn't somehow figure out how to get to Europe and all of the complicated immigration systems. He was handled. He had a handler. They all have handlers that are funded by taxpayer dollars to come here. From where? From where exactly? Well, the single most violent place on earth. They brought him from Sudan. What's in Sudan? Sudan is experiencing extremely high levels of violence due to ongoing civil war. It's one of the most violent nations on earth. There are widespread atrocities, tens of thousands of deaths every single year, including ethnic targeting. So why would you put him in such a target-rich environment where there are so many people that he could attack and go after when he already comes from the most violent place on earth? It's suicidal. It's on purpose. They know what they're doing. And now Belfast is burning because of it. What other hope do these people have? Ladies and gentlemen, I will defer to an Englishman who called in to a radio station this morning to explain this exact problem and did it more eloquently than I could. Listen to this call. It is pitch perfect.
But there was one voice note that stood out. Before Richard Tice, wherever you are, just pin back your logos. This was Rob.
Morning, Jez. On my way to work, that's normal. Listening to you talk about the thing that happened in Belfast last night, all the unrest. Well, yes, rightly, you shouldn't condone what happened. What else have people got to do? They're not listening. The political class are not listening. These people who are coming over here illegally, they're rapists, terrorists. They're coming over here. It's literally like putting a wolf in a sheep field. You are giving them a target-rich environment. You haven't vetted them. You've done nothing. All you've done is dump them in a place where they can wreak havoc. Where they come from, guess what? There's no law. If they can do literally whatever they like. They come over here, there's lawyers, of course, taxpayer funded. They get a nice cushy home, running water, Sky TV, gym memberships, bus passes. They can literally go where they want and create havoc. And when they do, the people that foisted them upon us, guess what? They say, don't get upset. Don't do anything. Don't go out and cause unrest. Well, I'll tell you what, mate. Stop reaping, then you might not have to sow it, because this country is absolutely on the edge. They cannot take much more of people getting stabbed, raped, blown up, you name it. You foisted it upon us for the last 25, 30 years, ever since Blair said, I'm going to rub your noses in it. Well, guess what? What goes around comes around. And I think the political class have got a very, very, very big smack on the nose coming.
But there was one voice.
Can you say it any better than that? You can't. Belfast stabbing victim lost eye during attempted beheading. Sudanese suspect ID'd. Has anybody explained why a man from Sudan is allowed to be in a Western nation? Why? Has any politician, make the argument is what I'm saying. Make the argument. I could make the argument why you should have immigration bans from certain extremely violent places that are run by ISIS, places that are run by Islamic terrorist states, why there should be an absolute total immigration shutdown and ban from unstable regions of the world, of course. Not only that, but a total travel ban from these nations as well. I can make that case because I love my own people. I love my country. I don't want rapes, murders, beheadings to happen to my people. And that's normal in that part of the world. We have shown you time and time again the data from Sudan, the data from Somalia, the data about inbreeding, child brides, genital mutilation, basic human mutilation, the amount of murders, sectarian violence, ethnic violence in these places. You don't want that in your country. To bring people over en masse from those places, what you are bringing is those cultures into yours. You're folding it in. There is not assimilation. We've now learned the end state of an entire generation of Coca-Cola ads, we are the world, kumbaya, and it didn't work. It hasn't worked. It's been a failed experiment. Total and complete failed experiment. What you've created is miniature Somalia inside of our nation. Miniature Sudan inside of our nation. You've created Tren de Aragua gangs and cartel corridors in our nations. This is what's been the result. It hasn't been assimilation. It hasn't been a bunch of people linking arms and singing in peace. It's been taking that culture and moving it over because it's not magical rocks. The people are the culture. The people are the culture. Would you want Somalia to be a 51st state? Would you make Sudan a 52nd state? If the answer is no, then you shouldn't be bringing people from that culture to your nation. That is why Belfast is on fire. Belfast is burning because the people have no other choice. Now, I remember the BLM riots. The left-wing media called them peaceful protests, and then also said, this is just the language of the unheard. Well, okay, I'm just going to use the exact same language. This is the language of the unheard. These are people, and they went door to door last night. They burned buses. They threw petrol bombs. These are people that have not been listened to, that do not wish to be replaced, that do not wish to have the invaders that were brought into their nations rape, pillage, murder, get unlimited taxpayer goodies, get unlimited taxpayer fraudulence, get coddled by the authorities, get coddled by the justice system, get coddled by the courts. They're sick of it. They're done. They just watched Henry Novak get stabbed through the neck and die as the cops handcuff him, giving him a death sentence. I don't think they are, mate. Shop owners of foreigners now being burned to the Belfast. I don't think they are, mate. That's what they said to Henry Novak. Look at this. Burning cars are rolling down the streets. You haven't seen scenes like this in Belfast quite a while. No, they're going to stand up and they're going to say, I'm sorry that it's come to this. Nobody wanted this, but this is entirely the government's fault. There's a state monopoly on violence exists precisely to prevent mob rule and deliver impartial justice. People tolerated it because once they saw the system was a neutral arbiter, they had no realistic alternative. That trust is gone. The state is now widely viewed as systemically anti-white and openly hostile towards them. Conflict is now inevitable. Every action the government takes will be interpreted as further aggression. Once neutrality is lost, authority collapses. Any resort to violence will now harden that conviction. In the meantime, innocents will continue to suffer precisely because of the state's betrayal of impartiality. This is the breaking point. Look at this. These are the scenes. Belfast erupts. The young men of Belfast have had enough. They've had enough. The Irish may have had enough of their country and people being violated. Yep. I mean, the other situation that the government has themselves in, and this is just the situation. Okay, I'm not commenting on one way or the other. This just is what is happening. That's what we do on the site. We're telling you what's going on. That they're going door to door. Like small groups are going door to door. How are you going to police against that? How are you going to defend it? It's one thing if like a mob gathers in a protest area and you can sort of surround them. Like what are you going to do when the people just rise up here and decide in mass that they aren't going to allow their replacement and they aren't going to allow third world migration? Kind of amazing to me that the leaders never asked. Isn't that the point here? Apologies for the inconvenience. Yeah, this is the shot of the day. Isn't that the point here? Like, isn't the point that a republic, the Irish Republic, a democracy, is the will of the people. The will of the people eventually comes to pass. Okay. Well, I can't think of something that is more against the will of the people than bringing in replacement populations from the most criminal, violent, third world, caveman. Look at this. Countries on earth, totally and wholly incompatible with the cultures that our ancestors built, and letting them run totally roughshod over over civil society. The English have had enough. Too many rape gangs, too much cover up, too many Henry Novaks. Every single week, a terrorist action against their lands, and they've said enough. The will of the people must stand in a republic. Otherwise, you don't have one. So if you don't want to live in a republic, if it's not a republic, call it what it is. But ultimately, if you didn't ask people if they wanted unlimited third world invaders, but you brought them anyway, and you changed everyone's way of life, you're not living in a republic. And you are illegitimate. So it's time for legitimate rule once again in our nations. Put it to a vote. Put it to a national referendum. See how many people actually vote for more boatloads, plane loads, train loads of third world migrations. And more importantly, ask the people who fought in world wars whether this is what they wanted for their nation. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.